Namo, Amitabha Buddha, dear friends. I'm grateful you're here with me tonight. Have you ever found yourself awake at 3 in the morning? The house finally quiet. Your body exhausted, yet your mind refusing to rest. The clock glows in the dark. Tomorrow's responsibilities wait. A health concern, a family worry, a financial strain. Something keeps circling, asking the same question again and again. Why is this happening to me? Many people across America sit with that same question in the silence of the night. Not because they are weak, but because they care deeply. Tonight, I'd like to share a gentle Buddhist perspective, one that doesn't ask you to force sleep or silence your thoughts, but offers a calmer way to understand these moments and soften the heart. Let us begin slowly by looking at what these sleepless hours may be trying to teach us. The sleepless hours often make us feel as if we are the only ones awake in the world, carrying a weight no one else can see. Yet, if we could gently pull back the curtain on this quiet night, we would discover many other lights glowing in other homes, other hearts awake with similar worries. Some are lying beside a partner who has already fallen asleep, listening to the steady rhythm of breathing while their own chest feels tight with concern. Others sit at the kitchen table, a cup of tea growing cold, thinking about a medical test result that hasn't come back yet, or a bill that keeps returning in the mail. There are parents staring at a child's bedroom door, wondering how to protect them from a world that feels increasingly uncertain. There are sons and daughters thinking about aging parents, replaying conversations they wish they had handled more gently. In these moments, suffering feels deeply personal. It has your name on it. It knows your history. And it whispers, "Why me?" in a voice that sounds very convincing. But if we slow down just a little, we may notice something else beneath that voice. A shared human rhythm. The same quiet ache moving through countless lives at this very hour. In many Buddhist temples across America, a small bell rings before dawn. The sound is soft, almost fragile, yet it carries through the still air. It does not ring for one person alone. It rings for all beings who are tired, confused, and searching for peace. In that gentle sound is a reminder: suffering does not come to one house only. It moves through families, through communities, through generations. I remember speaking with a woman named Linda after a short evening meditation at a local temple. Her shoulders were tense, her hands folded tightly in her lap. When asked how she was doing, she smiled politely and said, "I'm fine." But after a moment of silence, her eyes softened, and the words came out quietly. I just feel so tired of being strong all the time. That sentence carries more truth than many long explanations. So many people are exhausted, not only from their circumstances, but from the effort of holding everything together, from being the dependable one, the calm one, the one who doesn't complain. In Buddhist understanding, this kind of exhaustion is not a personal failure. It is a natural response to living in a world of constant change. The Buddha taught that suffering or dukkha is not a punishment and not a mistake. It is a shared condition of human life. Birth, aging, illness, separation, uncertainty. All of these touch us sooner or later, no matter how carefully we plan. When we forget this suffering isolates us, we think something must be wrong with me. When we remember it, suffering connects us. We realize this is part of being human. Imagine a lotus pond at dawn. The surface of the water looks calm, almost mirror-like. Beneath it, the roots of each lotus are tangled together in the same dark mud. No flower grows in clean water alone. The mud is shared, and yet each lotus rises toward the light in its own time. Our lives are very much like that pond. Different stories, different details, but the same underlying conditions. Stress at work, fear about health, tension in relationships, the quiet grief of things that did not turn out the way we hoped. These are not signs that life has singled us out. They are signs that we are part of it. From a deeper Buddhist perspective, this shared suffering is also the doorway to compassion. When we recognize our own pain clearly without pushing it away or judging it, something softens inside. The heart begins to understand others more easily. The sharp edge of why me slowly rounds into a gentler question. How can I meet this moment with wisdom? This is where Buddhist teaching gently shifts our view. The Buddha did not say that life should always feel comfortable. He said that suffering can be understood, and what is understood loses its power to control us. When we see that many others are carrying invisible burdens, our own pain begins to breathe. We may still feel it, but we are no longer alone inside it. The mind relaxes just a little. The body follows. For those living in America today, this understanding is especially important. The culture often celebrates independence and self-reliance. Asking for help can feel like weakness. Admitting fear can feel like failure. Yet the Buddhist path reminds us that interconnection is not a flaw. It is reality. We are supported by countless conditions we did not create on our own. The food we eat, the roads we travel, the people who taught us the care we once received. Even now, as you listen, you are part of something larger, a quiet community of people turning inward seeking peace, not through force, but through understanding. So if your heart feels heavy tonight, let it be heavy without blame. If tears come, let them come without apology. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are touching the same tender place that so many others touch in the dark. And from this shared ground, something meaningful can begin to grow. In the next moments, we will look more closely at a common belief that often arises during times of hardship. The idea that everything is already decided, that our suffering is fixed and unchangeable. There is a gentler, more empowering way the Buddha spoke about this, and it begins by seeing suffering not as a sentence, but as a starting point. From this shared ground of human struggle, another thought often quietly rises in the mind, especially during long nights of worry. It sounds calm, at first almost comforting. Maybe everything is already decided. Maybe this illness, this loss, this loneliness was meant to happen. Maybe there is nothing I can do but endure it. You may notice how the body reacts when this thought appears. The shoulders sink a little. The breath becomes shallow. The heart tightens, not from pain alone, but from resignation. Many people across America carry this belief without ever naming it. It shows up when a job falls apart despite years of effort. It whispers when a marriage ends even after counseling and prayers. It settles in quietly when a loved one grows sick, no matter how carefully we tried to live. This must be my fate, the mind says. This is just how my life is. I once sat beside a man named Robert during a Sunday service at a small Buddhist center tucked between a grocery store and a freeway. Incense drifted softly through the room. A single candle flickered on the altar. Afterward, as we stood near the door, tying our shoes, he sighed and said almost casually, "I guess this is just what I'm meant to carry." His voice was steady, but his eyes looked tired, as if they had been holding that sentence for a very long time. This idea that everything is already fixed can feel like relief at first. The river is not frozen, it is alive. In Buddhist teaching, our lives are like that river. What we experience today has roots in the past. Choices made, habits formed, conditions inherited. But the flow is still moving. Each moment of awareness, each intention, each response adds something new to the stream. This is where many people misunderstand karma. Karma is not fate. It is not a cosmic reward or punishment system. Karma simply means action, and the results that naturally follow action. When we believe everything is already decided, we confuse karma with destiny. And in doing so, we give away our present moment. The Buddha gently pointed us back to what is still alive right now. Not yesterday's mistakes, not tomorrow's fears. This breath, this thought, this choice. You can feel the difference when this understanding begins to settle. The chest softens, the mind loosens its grip. There is space again, not space for control, but space for participation. In temples throughout the United States, people bow before statues of the Buddha, not because he decides their lives, but because he represents awakening, the reminder that clarity is possible even in the midst of difficulty. The statue sits calmly, eyes lowered, hands resting in meditation. Nothing about the posture suggests resignation. It suggests presence. When we look at our own suffering through this lens, a subtle shift happens. The question changes. Instead of asking, "Why was this given to me?" we begin to ask, "How am I meeting what has come?" This does not mean blaming ourselves for pain. It means recognizing the one place where freedom still lives in our response. Even when circumstances cannot be changed immediately, the way we relate to them can. A woman once shared with me that after months of saying, "This is just my destiny," she noticed how heavy those words felt in her mouth. One evening, as she lit a small candle on her kitchen counter, she quietly tried a different sentence. "This is what is happening right now." Her face didn't suddenly brighten. Her problems didn't disappear. But her breath slowed. Her hands stopped shaking. Something inside her loosened. That is the beginning of wisdom. The Buddha taught that misunderstanding reality creates suffering, and understanding reality brings relief. Believing everything is fixed leads to despair. Seeing life as a living process opens the door to care, effort, and compassion. Think again of the lotus pond. The mud is real. The conditions are real. But the flower still turns toward the light. Not because it denies the mud, but because that is its nature. Your life, too, is not a closed story. It is an unfolding one. And even now, in the middle of uncertainty, there is room to plant something wholesome, a calmer thought, a kinder response, a moment of stillness. In the quiet, you might hear a distant bell, or simply the steady rhythm of your own breathing. That sound does not say, "Everything is decided." It says, "This moment is here." And from this moment, something new can begin. That quiet understanding that this moment is alive and still unfolding opens the door to a deeper question many people carry with them. If my life isn't fixed, then what is shaping it? And gently, patiently, the Buddha points us toward a word that is often misunderstood and often feared: karma. For many, the word itself feels heavy. It can sound like a verdict, like a cosmic scorecard, keeping track of every mistake. When hardship appears, the mind quickly jumps to painful conclusions. This is my punishment. I must have done something wrong. I deserve this. You can feel how those thoughts land in the body. The shoulders tense, the jaw tightens, the heart closes in on itself. But karma, as the Buddha taught it, is nothing like a sentence handed down from above. It is closer to a river than a courtroom. It moves. It responds. It changes shape as new water flows into it. Imagine standing near a creek after a long rain. The water rushes faster than usual, carrying bits of leaves and soil along its surface. A few days later, under the same bridge, the creek moves slowly again, clear enough to see smooth stones resting on the bottom. The creek did not decide to punish itself. Conditions changed, and the flow changed with them. Karma works in the same way. It simply means action and result. What we think, say, and do leaves an imprint, just as footsteps leave marks on soft ground. Over time, these marks shape the path we walk. But soft ground can be smoothed again. New paths can form. I once met a woman named Susan who had carried a deep sense of guilt for years. Her marriage had ended painfully, and she blamed herself for everything that followed. The loneliness, the financial strain, the distance from her children. Sitting quietly during a meditation session, she kept her eyes tightly closed as if afraid of what might surface. Afterward, she said in a small voice, "I think this is just my karma. I ruined my life." There was no anger in her words, only resignation. As we talked, the room was still. A faint scent of incense lingered in the air. Outside, wind moved through tall trees, branches brushing against each other with a soft, steady sound. I asked her gently, "What are you doing right now in this moment?" She paused, then answered, "I'm trying to breathe. I'm trying to listen." That moment, simple, sincere, was already karma in motion. The Buddha taught that karma unfolds through intention, not just what happens to us, but how we meet what happens. Two people can face the same difficulty and experience very different results depending on the state of their mind and heart. One meets pain with bitterness and creates more suffering. Another meets pain with awareness and compassion, and something begins to soften. This is why karma is not fate. Fate says this will happen no matter what. Karma says this is happening, and how you respond matters. You can see this clearly in everyday life. A harsh word spoken in anger often leads to regret, distance, and more conflict. A harsh word noticed, paused over, and gently replaced can stop a chain reaction before it grows. The outer situation may look the same for a moment, but the inner landscape is already different. In Buddhist temples throughout America, you may notice people bowing slowly, deliberately. Their movements are unhurried. Each bow is an action of intention, an embodied reminder to meet life with humility and care. No one bows because they believe their future is already sealed. They bow because they understand that intention shapes the path forward. Karma also explains why suffering can feel unfair. Some conditions were set in motion long before we became aware of them by our upbringing. Our culture, even choices made without full understanding. The Buddha never denied this complexity. Instead, he offered something far more compassionate, the reminder that the present moment is always a place of influence. Think again of the lotus. Its roots grow in thick, dark mud. That mud did not appear overnight. It formed slowly, layer by layer. Yet the lotus does not curse the mud. It uses it, drawing nourishment from what is difficult. It grows upward, petal by petal, toward the light. Our own painful experiences can work the same way when met with awareness. Not every hardship becomes meaningful right away. Some remain heavy for a long time. But when we stop treating karma as a punishment and begin seeing it as a process, the heart relaxes. We stop fighting our own lives. A man once shared that after learning this, he no longer said, "Why did this happen to me?" Instead, he noticed himself asking, "What is being asked of me now?" His face looked different when he spoke, less tight, more open. The question did not erase his problems, but it changed how he stood inside them. This understanding brings a quiet kind of hope, not the loud hope of instant solutions, but the steady hope of direction. It tells us that even small actions matter, a moment of patience, a decision not to lash out, a breath taken before reacting. These are not insignificant. They are the gentle turns of the river. In Buddhist teaching, liberation does not come from controlling every outcome. It comes from aligning our intentions with wisdom and compassion. When we do this, karma becomes less like a burden we carry and more like a current we learn to navigate. If you listen closely in the stillness, you may hear a distant bell or simply the rhythm of your own breath. Each sound arises, lingers, and fades. None of them are fixed. None of them are permanent. Yet each one leaves a trace. Your life is like that, a series of moments, each shaping the next. Karma is not here to condemn you. It is here to remind you that what you do with this moment matters. And within that reminder lies a quiet invitation to meet what arises with a steadier heart, and to discover how even in the midst of difficulty, the flow can begin to change. That invitation to meet each moment with a steadier heart naturally leads us to look more closely at how change actually happens in our lives. Not all at once, not through force, but through a quiet sequence. The Buddha understood very clearly what has already come into being, how we respond right now, and what we set in motion next. You might notice this pattern if you pause and listen to your own day. A message arrives on your phone. The body reacts before the mind has time to think. The chest tightens. The breath shortens. Old memories rise like sediment stirred from the bottom of a pond. Before we know it, we are already inside a familiar story. This is what we can gently call old karma. Not as something dramatic or mystical, but as the momentum of the past showing up in the present. Habits of thought, learned reactions, emotional grooves worn smooth by repetition. Old karma often arrives quietly dressed as "this is just how I am," or "this always happens to me." A man named Michael once described it to me this way. Every time his adult son didn't return a call, his stomach clenched, his jaw set. He could feel irritation rising before he was even aware of the thought behind it. Later, lying awake at night, he would replay the same scenes, the same words he wished he had said differently. By morning, he felt heavy, as if he had been carrying something all night long. That heaviness did not come from one missed phone call. It came from layers of old karma, years of expectations, disappointments, and unspoken fears moving together in the background. The Buddha did not ask us to erase this past. He asked us to see it clearly. When old karma appears, it often feels automatic, like a reflex. The body reacts, the mind explains, the story takes over. Yet right in the middle of that momentum, there is a brief opening. It may be very small, but it is real. This opening is our present response. This is where freedom lives. You may notice it as a single breath taken before speaking, a pause before sending a message, a moment of silence where the urge to react softens just enough to be seen. In Buddhist practice, this moment is precious. It is the point where the flow can change. Imagine a row of dominoes already falling. Old karma is the push that set them in motion long ago. The present response is the chance to gently place a hand in the path, not to stop everything instantly, but to slow the fall, to redirect it. Michael began to notice this pause during meditation. At first, it lasted no more than a heartbeat. His phone would buzz, and his hand would reach for it automatically. But sometimes, just sometimes, he felt the breath enter his chest before the irritation fully formed. In that breath, something shifted. He didn't feel calm exactly, but he felt less trapped. That breath did not erase his past. It did not solve his family concerns overnight, but it changed what came next. This is how new karma is formed. New karma is not created by grand gestures alone. It is created through small, repeated choices. Each time we meet a familiar trigger with a little more awareness, we plant a different seed. Each time we choose patience over harshness, clarity over assumption, kindness over self-blame, we alter the direction of the stream. In Buddhist temples across the United States, you may see practitioners walking slowly in meditation. Each step is deliberate. Heel touches the ground, weight shifts, toes release. Nothing is rushed. This is not because they are trying to be perfect. It is because they understand that each step matters. Each step leaves an imprint. Our responses to life are the same. Old karma may place us in difficult terrain, but how we walk through it shapes the path ahead. The Buddha spoke often about intention, not intention as wishful thinking, but as the inner direction behind our actions. When intention is driven by fear, anger, or despair, the results tend to echo those states. When intention is guided by understanding and compassion, the results carry a different tone, even if circumstances remain challenging. You can feel this difference in your own body. When you react from old patterns, the muscles tighten. The breath becomes shallow. The mind narrows. When you respond with awareness, the shoulders drop slightly. The face softens. There is space again. This does not mean we must always respond perfectly. Perfection is not the goal. Awareness is. Think of a lotus emerging from muddy water. The mud is still there. The roots remain entangled below the surface. But the direction of growth is upward, toward light, toward openness. Each day, the lotus does not argue with the mud. It simply continues to grow. Old karma is the mud. Present response is the direction of growth. New karma is the flower that slowly opens. This understanding is deeply practical. It tells us that while we may not control the conditions we inherit our family history, our health, the society we live in, we do influence what we cultivate now. Even when change feels slow, it is happening. A woman once shared that she began practicing this during her evening routine. When worries arose at night, instead of following them into endless thinking, she placed one hand on her chest and took 3 slow breaths. She didn't force herself to feel better. She simply stayed. Over time, she noticed that her nights felt different, not problem-free, but gentler. By morning, she carried less tension into the day. That gentleness was new karma forming. The Buddha's teaching here is quietly empowering. It does not promise that life will become easy. It promises that our relationship to life can become wiser. And wisdom changes everything it touches. If tonight you notice old reactions stirring, meet them with patience. Let them be seen without judgment. At first, his brow was furrowed, his breath shallow. But as the chanting continued, his face softened. The tight line around his mouth eased. When the session ended, he didn't smile widely or speak excitedly. He simply exhaled long and slow, as if setting something down he had been carrying for years. Later, he shared that whenever he felt anger rising at work, he silently repeated the Buddha's name to himself. Not to suppress the anger, but to keep it from taking over. Over time, he noticed fewer arguments, fewer regrets. The situations around him hadn't disappeared, but his responses had changed. That change, he realized, was new karma taking shape. From a deeper Buddhist perspective, chanting works on several levels at once. On the surface, it steadies the breath and calms the nervous system. Modern psychology recognizes the power of repetition and rhythm to soothe the mind. On a subtler level, chanting gathers scattered attention into one point, cultivating concentration. And at the deepest level, it plants seeds of faith and trust. Faith not in magic, but in the path of awakening itself. When the mind is unified in this way, it becomes less reactive. Old habits lose their grip. The space between stimulus and response grows wider. In that space, wisdom can enter. This is why chanting is said to create merit or wholesome energy. Not because words themselves carry supernatural power, but because they shape the quality of our intention. When intention is steady and compassionate, the results naturally follow. Think again of the lotus pond. The water may be muddy, stirred by wind and rain, but when the surface settles, light can reach deeper. Chanting is like allowing the water to become still enough for light to enter. For many people in America, chanting the Buddha's name also becomes a way to reconnect with values that feel lost in daily busyness. It reminds us to slow down, to remember what truly matters, to live not only for success or comfort, but for peace of heart and kindness toward others. Some chant for themselves, others chant with loved ones in mind, parents, children, friends who are struggling. In this way, chanting becomes an act of care, a quiet offering of goodwill. It nourishes the heart that chants and radiates outward at the same time. The Buddha often spoke of the mind as a field. Whatever we plant there will grow. When we repeatedly plant fear, resentment, or despair, those seeds take root. When we plant mindfulness, compassion, and clarity, something different begins to grow. Chanting the Buddha's name is a way of choosing what we plant. You may not feel peaceful every time you chant. Some days, the mind resists. Thoughts wander, emotions surface. That is not failure. It is simply the mind revealing itself. Each time you gently return to the sound, you are practicing patience. Each return is already a step toward freedom. Over time, this practice seeps into daily life. The name of the Buddha arises naturally in moments of stress. The breath steadies. The body remembers how to soften. A different response becomes possible. This is how karma is transformed, not through force, but through repeated moments of awareness. Not by erasing the past, but by meeting the present differently. If tonight you feel restless or uneasy, consider letting the Buddha's name rest lightly on your lips or in your heart. No pressure, no expectation, just a steady companion in the dark. Each gentle repetition is a reminder the mind can return, the heart can settle, and from that settled place, the path continues to open one calm moment at a time. That calm companionship of the Buddha's name can now become something very simple and very real. Something you can do tonight, right where you are. Not as a ritual you must perform perfectly, but as a small refuge you return to before sleep. Imagine the room as it is now. The lights are dim. The outside world has finally softened. Perhaps a distant car passes its sound, fading down the street. Your bed waits quietly, asking nothing from you except that you arrive. Before lying down, take a moment to sit or rest comfortably. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the weight of your body being held by the chair, by the mattress, by the floor beneath you. Notice how the breath enters and leaves on its own without effort. You do not need to change anything yet. If the mind is busy, let it be busy. If the heart feels heavy, let it be heavy. Nothing needs fixing in this moment. Now gently bring your attention to the center of your chest. Place a hand there if it feels natural. Feel the warmth of your palm, the quiet rise and fall beneath it. This is where we begin, not in the head, but in the heart. As you breathe in silently, say Amitabha. As you breathe out silently, say Buddha. There is no need to rush the words. Let them ride on the breath like leaves floating on slow-moving water. In, Amitabha. Out, Buddha. If you prefer, you may whisper the name softly, just loud enough for yourself to hear. The sound does not need to be perfect. What matters is sincerity, not volume. You may notice the mind drifting. A thought about tomorrow appears. A memory from earlier in the day rises. When this happens, do not scold yourself. Simply notice and gently return to the sound of the name. Each return is an act of kindness. As the minutes pass, you might feel subtle changes. The muscles around the eyes soften. The tongue rests more easily in the mouth. The breath lengthens on its own, as if the body remembers how to settle. This is not imagination. It is the nervous system responding to steadiness. From a Buddhist perspective, this simple practice is doing something profound. By placing the mind on a wholesome object, you are interrupting the habit of feeding worry and fear before sleep. Old karma often gains strength at night when the mind replays the day and projects into the future. Chanting gently closes that doorway. You are not forcing the mind to be quiet. You are giving it a safe place to rest. Picture a lotus at dusk. The petals slowly draw inward as light fades. The water around it becomes still. Nothing dramatic announces this change. It happens because the conditions are right. Your practice is creating those conditions. If emotions arise, sadness, regret, even tears, let them come. Keep chanting softly, allowing the sound to hold what appears. Many people find that when they stop resisting these feelings, they pass more easily, like clouds moving across the night sky. A woman once shared that during her first nights of chanting, her mind felt louder than ever. She almost stopped, but she continued gently, without judgment. One evening, she noticed her face reflected in the dark window. Her brow was no longer furrowed. Her mouth rested slightly open, relaxed. She realized she had not replayed her worries for several minutes. That small gap felt like a gift. 3 minutes may not seem like much, but in the language of the heart, 3 minutes of steadiness can change the tone of an entire night. It is enough to plant a different seed before sleep. If you lose track of time, that is fine. If you fall asleep while chanting, that is also fine. There is no wrong outcome here. The intention itself is already wholesome. As you continue, you may quietly add a simple wish in your heart, not spoken aloud, just felt. May this practice bring calm to my mind. May it ease the burdens I carry. May it help me meet tomorrow with a gentler heart. If thoughts of loved ones arise, parents, children, friends, let the sound of the Buddha's name include them. Imagine the calm you feel extending outward like warm light. This is not something you have to visualize clearly. A simple sense of goodwill is enough. In American Buddhist communities, many people use this short practice at the end of long days filled with responsibility. Work, caregiving obligations. They lay it all down for a few minutes before sleep. Over time, the body learns when this sound appears, it is safe to rest. This is how practice becomes a refuge. When you are ready to lie down, you may continue chanting silently or let the sound fade naturally. Notice how the body feels as it settles into bed. The sheets touch your skin. The weight of the day releases, even if only a little. Nothing more is required of you tonight. You have already done something meaningful. You have chosen to end the day with awareness instead of struggle, with kindness instead of force. That choice matters. It shapes what comes next. If sleep comes quickly, let it come. If it comes slowly, stay with the breath and the name. Either way, you are not alone in this moment. May your rest be gentle. May your heart feel held. And may these few minutes of practice quietly support you, not only tonight, but in the days ahead. As the body settles more easily into rest, something subtle begins to happen beyond the edges of your own skin. The calm you touch inside does not stay contained. It moves outward quietly, like warmth spreading through a room. You may notice this first in small ways. The jaw softens before you speak. The breath slows when a difficult thought about a loved one arises. The heart no longer tightens as quickly. These changes seem private, almost invisible, yet they shape the atmosphere around you. In Buddhist understanding, the mind we carry becomes the world we offer. Think of a family home late in the evening. Lights are dimmed. Dishes dry in the rack. Somewhere down the hall, a door closes softly. Even without words, everyone feels the tone of the house. Tension lingers when worry fills the air. Ease settles when someone has laid their burdens down. When one person finds a little peace, the whole household feels it. A mother once shared how her nights had been filled with anxious thinking about her aging parents. Lying in bed, she would replay phone calls, doctor's visits, decisions she wasn't sure were right. Her body felt rigid, even while exhausted. After beginning a simple nightly chanting practice, she noticed a change, not dramatic but real. The next morning, when she called her father Her voice sounded different, softer, less hurried. He spoke longer than usual, his tone calmer. "You sound rested," he said. She realized that her inner state had already reached him. This is how calm moves through families. The Buddha taught that our actions are not limited to what we do with our hands. Tone of voice, facial expression, the energy we bring into a room, these are actions too. They create effects. When the mind is agitated, even well-intended words can land sharply. When the mind is steady, even silence can feel supportive. Many people living in America carry heavy responsibilities for family. Some care for elderly parents while raising children of their own. Others live far from loved ones, holding concern across long distances. The heart stretches in many directions at once. In this landscape, personal peace can feel like a luxury, something selfish. Buddhist practice gently corrects this misunderstanding. Caring for your own mind is not turning away from family. It is caring for the source from which all care flows. Imagine pouring water from a cup that is already cracked and empty. No matter how much you want to give, there is little to offer. When the cup is gently refilled, sharing becomes natural again. This is why the Buddha emphasized inner cultivation alongside compassion. He understood that peace is contagious, just as tension is. One calm presence at the dinner table can change the entire conversation. Some patient response can interrupt years of habitual conflict. A man named Thomas once described how evenings with his teenage daughter often ended in arguments. Words would escalate quickly, both of them feeling misunderstood. After weeks of practicing mindfulness and chanting before coming home from work, he noticed a pause appear in himself. One evening, when his daughter spoke sharply, he felt the familiar heat rise and then soften. He listened without interrupting. His shoulders remained relaxed. The argument never took shape. Later, she lingered in the kitchen longer than usual, talking about her day. Nothing about her life had suddenly become easier, but something in the space between them had shifted. From a deeper Buddhist perspective, this is also how merit or wholesome energy grows. When we cultivate calm and kindness, we are not only shaping our own experience, we are offering a gift to others. This gift does not require explanation. It is felt. In many Buddhist families, there is a quiet tradition of dedicating practice to loved ones. A candle is lit. A few moments of chanting are offered not as a demand for change, but as an expression of care. The heart gently includes parents, children, partners, even those with whom there has been conflict. This act softens resentment and nourishes patience. You may notice this softening in yourself. Thoughts about family still arise, but they carry less sharpness. The mind no longer races to fix everything at once. There is room for trust that small, steady goodness matters. This trust is especially meaningful when family relationships are complicated. Not every wound heals quickly. Not every distance closes. Buddhist wisdom does not deny this. It teaches us to focus on what we can offer now, presence instead of pressure, understanding instead of blame. When your mind is calm, you hear more clearly. When your heart is settled, you respond with less fear. These changes create new conditions, even if others do not change immediately. Think of a pond at dawn. The surface is smooth. Reflections appear clearly. If one stone is thrown gently, the ripples spread evenly. When the water is already turbulent, even a small disturbance creates chaos. Your inner stillness prepares the ground for gentler ripples. For those who carry a sense of filial responsibility, this practice holds special meaning. Wishing peace for parents, caring for them with patience, honoring their efforts through kindness, these are expressions of gratitude that go beyond words. When your own mind is at ease, these expressions arise more naturally. You do not need to announce your practice to your family. You do not need to convince anyone of anything. Let the change show itself quietly in your listening, your tone, your willingness to pause. Over time, family members may not comment on what you are doing, but they will feel something different. Conversations may feel less rushed. Conflicts may resolve more easily. Even silence may feel more comfortable. This is not because you have controlled outcomes. It is because you have changed the quality of your presence. If tonight you think of your family as you rest, let those thoughts be held in the same gentle awareness you offer yourself. Imagine the calm you are cultivating extending outward, touching them where they are. No effort, no strain, just inclusion. May your peace become a refuge for those you love. May your steadiness ease the hearts around you. And may the quiet work you do within yourself continue to support your family in ways seen and unseen. As this understanding deepens, there is another simple practice that helps carry this calm even further. An act of offering that allows us to release worry while wishing well for all beings. As that calm presence begins to ripple outward, there is one gentle step that allows the heart to rest even more deeply.